Hello, my name is Nico Bersoni, and today I'm going to be talking about what is a tort. A tort, according to the definition Wendy has given us, is a private wrong other than a breach of contract that causes injury or damage to the property of others. What does a tort do? Well, it enforces a duty of care imposed by law. There's no choice, we are all responsible for our own torts, which is why it is different from contracts, because you must sign a contract in order to be liable. The concept of a tort is to provide compensation for loss and injury, not to punish the offender. Tort law covers many things to do with your day-to-day life. Things like all the liability you have in your circumstance, like cooking or cleaning if you were a restaurant owner or a chef, or if you own your own land, there are occupier liabilities, and etc. There are different types of torts. Intentional tort and torts of negligence are laws of torts, where strict liability and vicarious liability are tort liabilities. Some examples of intentional tort are battery, assault, sexual harassment, trespassing, with batteries being touching someone without permission, and as well as sexual harassment, also could be considered a crime, which could force a person to face criminal charges in addition to civil action. Trespass, as if somebody enters your property without your permission, you can seek compensation under tort law or remedies, along with deceit, intimidation, defamation, nuisance, and many more. These are all intentional torts because the person meant to do it, and without any valid defense, the victim is subject to remedies for their losses or damages. Negligence is a very broad category of tort. Basically what it does is impose a duty of care on all of us, which tells us to act reasonably so that others are not harmed. Another aspect of negligence would be standard of care, or a reasonable person standard, which basically means what would a reasonable person do. This would be where foreseeability would come into play, because a reasonable person would foresee the incident happening. For example, a store owner is mopping his floors and they forget to put up a wet floor sign, and somebody slips and falls on that wet floor, that would qualify them for damage awards. A foreseeable person would have seen that somebody would have slipped on the floor without the floor sign. Strict liability means liability without fault. This would mean that the defendant is liable for the harm their actions have caused, even if there have been no misconducts at all. A good example of this would be a dog bite. Even if the owner had no prior knowledge of the animal's aggressiveness and took actions to prevent it, they are still responsible for the harm caused. Vicarious liability means that an employer is responsible for the torts of an employee if the employee commits the tort with anything to do with work, like at work, with work equipment, or on work hours at work. An example of this would be at a shopping market. If an employee scratches a car with a shopping cart, the damages would go to the owner of the store instead of the employee. That's all for today on torts. Thank you very much.